Hi and welcome to Slick Willy Flying. Today what we're going to do is the not so spey shrimp, the Slick Willy version. So what do I mean by not so spey? So basically I'm making shrimp, here's a better one, shouldn't say better, different, that have the illusion of spey without using spey feathers. The way that I make this fly have this appearance is I use craft fur. And specifically what I'm using is this wolf craft fur. And I don't have that much left on this one, but enough for a couple more flies. I'm also using bead chain. I'm going to use a size 4 saltwater hook right here. I'm going to use a little bit of silly legs in olive, which are around here somewhere. I put a little shaggy dub there in the middle, shaggy dub. I'm going to use a little bit of my homemade dubbing, which this color is perfect for this fly. And I'm going to use a little bit of my homemade eyes that I make that you've seen in previous videos, and Krystal flash for antenna. So pretty simple, really inexpensive parts, real traditional Slick Willy here. So yeah, I say don't forget to hit the like and subscribe. Let's change the camera angle and let's tie a shrimp fly. Okay, so I've started a little bit of 6/0 Vevus thread, and the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and put on the bead chain. So location of my bead chain, pretty far forward. I'm just trying to leave a little bit of space where I can make a UV resin head. A lot of times you'll see me use super glue. Not going to use any super glue on this one because we are going to use a little UV resin. Okay, so there was step one. Okay, so we got the bead chain on. So now it's this little pink hot spot. Couple loose wraps, making sure that I like the way it's sitting. And now we can crank that nice and tight. And we can use it just to help build a little bulk. Perfect. So now it's the shaggy dub. I'm just going to grab a little pinch, and now this stuff is a little wild. It comes out of the bag just kind of random, so I'm going to try and get it somewhat straightened out. I'm going to double it up on the thread, and now I'm just going to bring it to the hook, and now I'm going to try and feed it on both sides. Just like that. Doesn't matter if it's not perfect right now, because the next few materials will help push it all back. Okay, not going to worry about the shaggy dub, even though it's kind of going to drive me bananas. Sometimes you get little loops, and the loops you definitely want to open. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make a little ball of my homemade dubbing, and we're just going to make like a little clump right behind the Shaggy Dub. But we do need to move all of this Shaggy Dub forward. Or I guess backwards is the better way to say it. Now what this dubbing ball is going to do is it's going to help splay out the eyes and the craft fur that's coming. Nice. Alright, so now the next thing I'm going to do is a clump of craft fur that I pre-prepped. And one thing that I didn't say that I kind of changed my mind there at the end is I blended in a little bit of, this is salmon pink. I don't know, I've made those others with just the tans, so I wanted to make one that had a little bit more color. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do one wrap around the craft fur, and now I'm going to place it under the hook, and I'm going to go one wrap around both the craft fur and the hook. Now I'm going to try to pull out the length as much as I can because I want as much of this craft fur as possible. And now I'm going to lock that and just crank on that right there. Perfect. And now I can distribute that around the hook. So that I get it on both sides of the hook. Nice. Now I'm going to go ahead and invert this fly, which will probably make my life a little bit easier. Okay, so the next thing we're going to put on is going to be the eyes. And for eyes, I'm going to pull out, oh, black is coming out, I don't want black. So I got a red. Now I'm going to use my bad scissors to cut this in half. I make these out of Mason's Hard Mono, and that actually is pretty hard. Okay, so I want these eyes to be pretty long, longer than what most people do. I want them to show. So I just went ahead and attached one on my side. And now I'm going to do the same on the opposite side. When I do this, I do a couple of soft wraps now, and I check the length. The length looks a little long. It's easy to pull, it's not easy to push. That looks really good right there. Nice. Alright, so now it's the Krystal flash antenna. So I just need half a strand for this. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this strand in half. Set that aside. Again, I'm going to go to my thread. That's about even. Go right to the top of the hook and lock those in. And now put one on each side. It feels so nice to make a saltwater shrimp or just a saltwater fly. My daughter's moving to Denver, so I've been making a bunch of dries and nymphs and stuff for her to take with her. So now it's the silly legs, and again I'm going to do the exact same technique because I'm going to end up trimming these, so it doesn't really matter if they end up a little bit long. This time though, I want to put them on the bottom of the hook, just like that. You know, these rubber legs want to float, so that's actually going to work out really nice right there. Now what I do for the dubbing is I like to take one set and wrap them over one eye, and then I like to take the opposite ones and wrap them over the other eye, and that just helps me keep them out of the way for the coming steps. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a dubbing loop, and this dubbing loop we're going to actually set it to the side. This is the part of the fly that maybe makes it not a beginner tie. So we're going to take that, and I'm going to put my spinner in, and then I'm just going to hang it on my vise here out of the way. Now I'm going to get a little bit of wax on my thread, and we're going to get a little bit more of my homemade dub, and we are going to dub that body all the way back to the bead chain. Just like that. Ooh, that was not good. Gotta be careful with the point of the hooks. Get a little bit more dubbing. Nice, perfect. Okay, now I get my thread out of the way. This is where the fly gets a little bit more non-beginner. So what we're gonna do is, I have this clump of the same wolf craft fur, but I have to trim it because right now it's too long. I don't actually want it to be much longer than the hook shank. But it's important that when you trim it, that you trim it as straight as possible, because when you put it in the dubbing loop now, we don't want it sticking out past that dubbing loop very far at all. So I'm just going to stick it in my dubbing loop first, and now before I try to get it short, I'm just going to start spreading it out first in the dubbing loop. And once I feel like I've spread it out, then I start worrying about pushing it close to the edge. But first we spread it. And the whole target, the whole point of this is you don't want to get a big clump on your dubbing loop. You want your dubbing loop to be as short as possible. So now hopefully you have everything out of the way, and you have it nice and spread out and short on your dubbing loop. So now you're just going to spin this up and lock it in, just like that. Spin it up again. I spin it as much as I can and lock it in. Now I do still take a needle and try to dig out what's trapped, which will make it even more thin. Everything you do now at this point will pay off in the end. You can even take a dubbing brush and just work it. Doesn't matter if you lose a little bit, there's a lot of fibers on here. So now when I do this the same as I do every other time I use a dubbing loop. You see me do this a bunch of times with a big tasty. So I'm just gonna palmer everything towards the hook. Oh, that came off. Hackle plier. That was a good save right there. My dubbing loop broke. That happens sometimes. Not so often, but it does happen at times. But it's important that you work all these fibers back as you wrap this craft fur towards the back. And you just keep wrapping towards the bead chain. And once you get to the bead chain, then you go under with your thread and capture your dubbing loop. And now you can cut off your dubbing loop. Okay, so now we're going to take one additional step that I hadn't done on those other flies, and we're going to go ahead and put on a weed guard. I happen to have a little bit of good weed guard material here. So I'm just going to make a little loop just like that. I'm going to come under and I'm going to capture that loop around the bead chain eyes a few times just like that. And once I have it, now I can just pull it all the way up nice and hard and it's locked. It's there. Perfect. We will trim that weed guard in a minute. Can give it a couple of wraps behind. It's so hard now. There's so much other materials that want to get trapped with it. I'm going to grab just the weed guard. I let go of it a little quick. Sometimes it's nice to come up behind the weed guard. Just like that. Helps it stay right where you want it. Alright, so now whip finish. Trim that off. Now I want to have a red head, so I could have used a marker, but instead I have a little bit of red thread ready to roll. And I drop the tag. There you are. Perfect. I don't know what it is about this redhead, but I just love it. I'm just trying to get a little bit of red behind the weed guard. That's close enough. A little bit of white showing, but it's alright. Alright, one more whip finish. I like using my whip finish tool. I know a lot of people use their fingers. I just think my whip finishes come out a little bit cleaner when I use the tool. Okay, so one more thing we're going to do. We're going to trim the legs. We're going to trim, possibly trim the antennas. I don't think I'm going to trim the antennas. I am going to trim the legs though. So when I trim the legs, I like to take them all together, keeping in mind that they are rubber or silicone, so they're going to stretch, and if you pull them too hard, you're going to end up with legs that are too short. So all I'm really going to do right now is I'm going to give them a little bit of a stretch just to straighten them out, and I don't really want them longer than the wing. So that's where I'm going to cut them. And now this is the bottom of the fly, and just to help this fly swim the way I want it to swim, not cutting any shaggy dub, I am going to cut a little bit of this craft fur right down the center, because it's the material that'll make the fly float. So this way there's more material on the opposite side, which will help it float the right way. So it's just a tiny drop of UV resin. Gotta make sure the weed guard is right where I want it before we do any UV resin. We have so much craft fur here. Alright. Not really worried about the length of the weed guard right now. I can always cut that. I usually don't cut it right off. A lot of times I leave them a little long and then I trim them when I'm in the water. What I do want is to make sure that their placement is where I want them. And now they're never going to move. Perfect. That came out great. Alright, so there it is. You know, it's basically a poor man's Spey shrimp. It's going to swim like this. Get it out of the vise here. You know, this fly right here, it's a great little fly. It's going to get a lot of bites. It's got just enough, you know, enough little action, enough little everything just to be really productive. You know, redfish, bonefish, tarpon, I mean, just about anything. Well, probably, I bet you if I threw this where there's crayfish, I bet you I'll catch freshwater species with this fly. Because this little bug right here will probably resemble crayfish as well. Thank you for watching. don't forget to hit the like and subscribe. Hope you enjoyed the video. Definitely a Slick Willy version here because it's not a spay, but it looks like a spay. And see you on the next video. Good luck catching.